Hello and welcome. This is Upasna and you're watching my new segment Story Time. Today we have this story called Footprints Without Foot by H.G.Wells. It is a story about a scientist whose name was Griffin. He lived in London. He had carried out experiments in order to prove that the human body could become invisible. He, with the help of some rare drugs, was able to do this. His body became as transparent as a sheet of glass when he swallowed these drugs. Along with this, his body also remained as solid as glass. So finally, Griffin was invisible. Griffin's landlord didn't like him, and so he tried to eject Griffin out of his house. To take revenge, Griffin set fire to the house. He then took off all his clothes and now nobody could see him. Griffin ran away from there, so he didn't have any clothes, money or food to survive. Griffin stepped in some mud. Due to this, he started leaving footprints as he walked further on. Two boys saw this. They saw these footprints, but they were not able to see Griffin. They were surprised. Fresh footprints appeared in front of them and they both started to follow them. But the footprints turned fainter and fainter as Griffin covered more distance and the mud got off from his feet. So there were no more footprints to follow and thus Griffin escaped from the boys. It was winter time in London and Griffin was without clothes. He was freezing, so he rushed into a store that was full of clothes. He wore some of them with an overcoat, hat, a pair of shoes, and then he went to the store's kitchen and ate cold meat with coffee, followed by some sweets and wine. Finally, he slept peacefully. When he woke up the next day, he found that the people who worked at the store had arrived. He tried to escape and everyone got shocked. They saw clothes running all by themselves. To make himself completely invisible, Griffin threw off all the clothes. He was now nowhere to be seen. Griffin then got inside a shop in Drury Lane, where he covered his face with tape. He then wore dark glasses, false nose, bushy side whiskers and a hat, so as to look like a man. Then he had to come out of the shop unseen. For this he attacked the shopkeeper from behind and also robbed him of all his money. Finally, he took a train to a village called Iping. There he booked 2 rooms at a local inn. Nobody used to come to the inn during this time of year. Mrs. Hall, the wife of the person who owned the inn, was surprised to see such odd man. Griffin told her that he wanted to be alone and he looked like that because he was affected by an accident. He gave her the money in advance and therefore she didn't ask him further questions. But that amount didn't last much. Griffin lied that a check was about to come. Then, to get hands on some cash, he stole a clergyman by getting into his house. A little later, Mrs. Hall and her husband saw that the scientist Griffin was not in his room. His clothes and bandages were lying in the room. At this time, Griffin came back and he threw his cap towards Mrs. Hall. He took the chair and charged at Mrs. Hall thought that Griffin had invited spirits into the furniture. Mrs. Hall felt sad as the mother used to sit on that chair. Griffin gave more money to Mrs. Hall and this made her suspicious as he didn't have any money before. A village constable also got to know about the theft cases. Mrs. Hall asked Griffin questions like what he did to her furniture and how he appeared out of an empty room. Griffin got angry. He said that he would show who he actually was. He removed the tape and his hat, his glasses, whiskers, and his false nose. In this way, he now had no face or head to look at. The constable, Mr. Jeffers, reached at this place. He tried to get hold of Griffin, but Griffin started removing all his clothes. This made him completely invisible. Griffin hit the constable. This made him unconscious. Griffin at last ran away from there and nobody was able to catch him. So this was about the story. For more, like, share and subscribe. This is Upasna Unyal signing off.